Is the Urban Armor Gear Scout annoying to use? That's the first question I had when I first saw this product. The second question I had was, will the bulk make my iPad too heavy to use? The third question went along the lines of, is an Urban Armor Gear Scout with a Smart Keyboard Folio installed in it going to be better than something like the Logitech Slim Folio Pro? And the last question I had with all of this was, will the Scout stop my iPhone from getting damaged like this? So for the drops, the answer is yes, and I'll cover the rest of the answers to those questions in the rest of this video. For the impatient, this is a good add-on if you already own the Smart Folio keyboard and need a bit of extra protection every once in a while. At MobileReviewsEh, Monty and I base our reviews on actual usage, because how else would you be an actual reviewer? The fit of the Urban Armor Gear Scout on my iPad isn't bad. It looks clumsier than it actually is. To get everything to fit properly, you need to slide one end of the Smart Folio case into the Scout, then snap in the other side before reinstalling your iPad. The iPad is held in place by several long rubber edges. The iPad in this video has a speaking glass or screen protector, and it just fits. My Tech Armor Ballistic Screen Protector would not have fit in this case. The cover of the Smart Keyboard cover actually snaps onto the top of the case, which prevents it from flopping around. Nice touch, Urban Armor Gear. The finish of the case is quite smooth, so it will slide around easier than I'd like, but it really doesn't go anywhere when everything's loaded in, because this thing's pretty heavy. The Urban Armor Gear Scout feels like a giant piece of rubber, and it looks like it would be very rigid, but it's actually quite floppy. The case is 16.4 millimeters thick and weighs about 283 grams. Now the iPad with the Smart Keyboard Folio is about 14 millimeters thick with a weight slightly over 1100 grams, so the Scout isn't going to add a lot of bulk to your entire iPad setup. Removing your iPad is fairly simple, as you need to pull back on the case and just lift the iPad out. There's a good chance that you'll pop out the Smart Keyboard as well, so make sure you install everything all over again when you decide to put the iPad back into the Scout. So the answer to question number 2, which was, will this bulk make my entire iPad kind of annoying to use? And the answer is yes. The iPad with the Smart Keyboard Folio with it flopped over is pretty tough to use. You add basically more insult to injury by adding on the Scout. Like using this as an iPad by itself, it does flop over. Like, this is really heavy. Honestly, it's really hard to play a full round of Call of Duty Mobile with this entire setup. Like, this is heavy. But you can take the iPad out of this case relatively easily, so it might not be that much of an annoyance. From a wear and tear perspective, the case is going to age better than the Urban Armor Gear Metropolis. You're not going to be able to scrape parts of this case off with your fingernails. When it comes to functionality, the volume buttons are exposed, so they are easy to use, but the power button is covered and is tough to use, which is surprising to me because Urban Armor Gear is usually very good with their buttons, but that's not the case with the Scout. There is an Apple Pencil holder at the top, so if you lose your Apple Pencil like I have because I haven't used it in weeks because the tip broke, the case is gonna look funny. This hook at the top here, I've been staring at it for the last week and a bit. Makes it look like I can hang this up in the shower right beside my loofah. I had no issues with camera access, and the port cutout is large enough to use with non-Apple cables, which is something that I couldn't do with the Metropolis. Now, the standout feature of the Urban Armor Gear Scout is the fact that you can use it in conjunction with your Smart Keyboard Folio. And I honestly feel like the old Metropolis for the original iPad Pros was the inspiration for this product. But does this entire setup make your iPad with the Smart Keyboard Folio annoying to use? The answer is sort of, and I'm going to explain this sort of by, let's start from the beginning. iPad's installed, everything's buttoned up. First thing you have to do is pull hard enough on the cover to pop it open. That's not too bad, it's like a click. But then you have to go set up your keyboard, and this Scout, even though this part of the case is thinner and it's very flexible, adds a bit more resistance to the Smart Folio keyboard's hinge. And then you set it up. This is fine. Looks funny, feels a little bulky, the edges are very noticeable, but when you're putting everything back, you have to fold it down and then click it all again, right? Sometimes it doesn't click. You have all these little obstacles to get used to when you're using your Smart Folio keyboard in the Scout. The second part of this is that if you want to just use your iPad, you just pull it out, which is great, but then again, you have to go reinstall the entire setup, right? So you gotta push it back in, make sure everything's in, then you gotta slide the iPad back in, snap it back in, and then close it up. It's like 7 extra steps in order for you to just do something that was just so very, very simple when it was just the keyboard without the Scout. But if you get past these mild annoyances, having that extra protection might be worth it, though. Is this setup any better than the Logitech Slim Folio Pro, which is down here? This thing? I'll answer that question after I quickly talk about the protection of this case. When it comes to protection, Urban Armor Gear claims that it offers MilSTd A10G drop protection. The corners of the case are between 3.3 and 3.7 millimeters thick, which is just as thick as the corners found on the Urban Armor Gear Monarch. Interesting. Now, from my understanding, MilSTd A10G for a device of this size is gonna supposedly provide your iPad with 4 feet worth of drop protection, which means it's gonna offer enough drop protection to protect your iPad from a fall from a countertop, which is how I dented my iPhone 11 Pro 11-inch. So sad when that happened. So, would I go with a $60 Urban Armor Gear Scout with a $200 Smart Keyboard, or go with the $130 Logitech Slim Folio Pro? I would go with the Logitech product. This Logitech product is going to be cheaper and won't be as annoying to use. Yes, you still have to deal with a Bluetooth keyboard with its lag when you connect to the iPad, but all in all, this is a complete setup that is easy to deal with, whereas in this is just a bit more of a hassle. Honestly, only time I would go and recommend this product is if you have a Smart Keyboard Folio already and you need to add a tiny bit of protection to the setup every once in a while. This isn't something I would recommend on a day-to-day basis, from my perspective anyways. So that's all I got for this video. Questions, comments, please leave them down in the comments section. This product is getting reviewed next week, and then I've got, I think, 1 or 2 more. I got like a cheap Amazon one I'm on the fence of kind of reviewing, because I don't like reviewing just Amazon products, but I need to share with you guys the difference between actual decent products and really bad ones. First time watching my videos, I do encourage you to click subscribe. I do tech reviews a lot of the time. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a week, depending on how involved I am with the products. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. Is the Urban Armor Gear Scout with a smart... Is the Urban Armor Gear Scout... Is the Urban Armor Gear Folio going to be better than something like a Logitech? Personally, I think it's quite... Hey Monty, just stop breathing so loudly. Just... From a wear and tear perspective, the case is going to age better than the Urban Armor. I totally installed it wrong. I gotta go take it off again.